We're gonna start at 7:20, 7:20.
Good evening. I'm calling this meeting of the regular meeting of the Village Board to order at 7:20. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and Section 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call is showing that all trustees are present except for Rick Miller. He is absent excused, and Trustee Pieper is calling in via WebEx. If you could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and for a moment of silence. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Thank you. President's report. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to share what has been going on since my last President's report update of 2 weeks ago. I hope that everyone enjoyed their weekend, and if you went to the state fair like I did, I hope you had fun. I can't believe that it's already August. Schools will be starting soon, and of course, lots of kiddos are now practicing or soon will be for fall sports. It's certainly very busy. This past Thursday at Fireman's Park was a Taste of Germantown, sponsored by the Kiwanis, with many food trucks and 3 musical entertainments at the pavilion. And at the same time, Park and Rec put on a family fun carnival for all ages, which was extremely well received. This coming week at Fireman's Park will be busy as well. On Tuesday, the annual Neighbors Against Crime Night Out, or NAC, will occur from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Activities include a Flight for Life helicopter demonstration, along with drone, canine, and taser demonstrations. On Thursday, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., musical entertainer The Britons will be playing at the Music in the Pavilion event. Several food trucks will be on site for your food enjoyment, along with beverages being available as well. It's been a very busy couple of weeks within the village. I want to thank the many residents for reaching out to me to chat about a whole bunch of things, to include pond fountains, the status of the road repair projects throughout the village, along with the sidewalk installations on Main Street. I also want to thank those that I met personally in person to chat about concerns that they have. I truly welcome those interactions. Speaking of road repair, have you been on Rockfield Road or Pleasant View Drive? Both roads look awesome. And I was just on Pleasant View Drive just now, and the only thing that we have to do is just the restriping there. So it's looking great. This past week, I met with our village administrator, our village attorney, both our police and fire chiefs, and attended the Utility Advisory Committee. We also had a meeting to discuss the planning for next year's 4th of July parade, the events at Fireman's Park, and of course, the very popular firework demonstrations. So stay tuned. In addition, we had a combined village board and plan commission meeting where we furthered the conversation on the proposed village center project. Among other things, we had great discussions on potentially adopting a multifamily housing development policy or not adopting one. This will be reviewed at the next Plan Commission meeting, but please know that for every proposed residential development going forward, the Plan Commission will review the following: tax revenue expected, impact fees expected, impact to school district, and a review of the multifamily mix ratio, which we have in place to ensure a proper balance is maintained. Also reviewed at the joint meeting was an overview of the many TIDs within the village and a discussion of several path forward options that include creating a potential TID and an option of not creating a TID for both Plan Commission and Village Board consideration. Finally, a draft project timeline was reviewed that will ensure community engagement. Overall, it was a great meeting. The budget process continues to move forward, with staff working on closing the projected deficit of $600,000. Department heads have been instructed to reduce their non-salary expenses by 5% to ensure draft 1 of a balanced budget comes to the board. Staff created a department budget summary worksheet that provides a budget summary, goals and priorities for the upcoming year, along with highlighting the 5% reductions and impact to village service and revenue, if any. Why the budget deficit? Well, of course, the expense side is higher than the revenue side. Some, but not all of this is due to increasing costs for employee salaries, but we have also seen significant increase in other costs, including like road salt and our contract for garbage and recycling collection. Our primary source of revenue, the property tax, is limited to net new construction, which does not keep up with inflation, which is why I will state again, we need additional smart development. Wrapping up, it's been a very busy couple of weeks since we last met, and there's a lot going in our community. I'm looking forward to our meeting this evening as we work to move Germantown forward. Thank you. We are now on to announcements of forthcoming events of public interest, committee, and department reports. Trustee Kaminsky.
Public Works room Wednesday at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Trustee Rick Miller is absent excuse, so we'll move forward. Trustee Mike Cutts.
Public safety meeting for September is to be determined because it falls on Labor Day, the first Monday. So as soon as we have an update on that, we will get that out there. The Fire Safety Week is coming up in October, and the fire department is going to be having an open house on Thursday, October 16th from 30 to 8 p.m. And the public is invited to come see it, and then you can also see the current status of the fire station for those who are interested. And we're still working on getting meetings set up at the police department so that people are able to see the needs there. We did speak tonight on the renovation and expansion of Fire Station 2. We were presented with two options. There was pluses and minuses to both, so we are moving that forward with a positive recommendation to the village board, not picking one or the other, but for there to be more discussion and back and forth on the two options for a decision to be made.
Great, thank you. Any other committee commission chairs would like to speak? Trustee Jan Miller.
Good evening. We will have our Economic Development Commission meeting next Tuesday, August 12th at 6 p.m. in this room.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, moving on to item 7, consent agenda. Minutes, July 21, 2025. The minutes for the July 28th.
6, citizen input.
Oh, citizen input. Holy cow. That's my. I apologize for that. We are now on to citizens input. We have kept the time at 4 minutes. So we increased the time from 3 minutes to 4 minutes. So please, we're going to have a
4 minutes. So please keep your comments within the 4 minutes. Would anybody like to come forward tonight and speak? Good evening and welcome.
I hope you're not 65 years old. We won't be able to have you live in Germantown because you're a senior then. And the fire department mentioned, their assisted living, okay? What I'm talking about are senior condos where people like myself who are able, as of today, to take care of themselves. And if your constituents knew that you were that biased against seniors, I don't think they would be very happy. But anyway, we are a community that I feel are being abused by the refusal of our leaders, which is the people that make these decisions in charge, are ignoring the wishes and desires of 68 to 70% of our citizens. They're called the majority, and who pay for all this stuff that you're trying to pass. And I feel that the failure to put the taxpayers first is a betrayal of trust because you are voted in to represent your constituents. According to the code of ethics that you are supposed to sign, okay? Public officials and employees are agents of public purpose and hold office for the benefit of the public they represent. To discharge faithfully the duties of their office, regardless of personal considerations, recognizing that the public interest must be their prime concern. Their conduct in their official affairs must be, and their private affairs should be above the reproach so as to foster the right respect for the government that they represent for us, okay? That's a code that was supposed to be signed by all trustees. And the board is a representative board, and the residents never authorized the board to become developers, spending millions of dollars to become making decisions for us without any major public meetings or anything, and not waiting. We don't want high density housing. We would like apartments. When I look at the buildings that are being built, they look like monopoly houses. There's no design to them. And then these TIDs, I have asked for, and I'm calling again tomorrow. I had a very busy day today, but I don't think that we should be using TIDs until we have seen as a village the other side of TIDs from another party. And I call the MacIver Institute to see, I'm working on having maybe somebody in authority on the board invite them. This is what we should be doing. We have the right to know both sides. Mr. Kreklo's been talking about this others. We haven't heard the other side of TIDS. And in talking to our bookkeeper, we lose $5 million a year in taxes from the TIDS we have out right now. And though that money, they pay it, but it can't be used to pay down our debt. And since I've lived here, I don't know how many years, but let's say they've had those TIDS for 5 years. And that's $25 million we don't have in our budget because of a TID. And now, the pharmacy, Sterling Pharmacy, says they can't go through with some of their development because of the cost of tariffs. What does that do now to a TID? They can't do what they're supposed to do and nobody says anything? I don't get it. I really don't get this. And so anyway, I think we better wake up and start, and your constituents, do you ever talk to them? Do they tell you, do you talk to a lot of them? Hold meetings with the people you represent? It might be a good idea to find out what they want. We're getting shoved into a financial situation that I think is going to bury us if we don't wise up already. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Good evening and welcome.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. The first is a question on something that I saw on the village Facebook page earlier. There evidently is a water main issue on County Line Road over by Buffalo Wild Wings. So I'm curious as to what the cause of that is, and is the work being completed by the village or a contractor, and is that being covered by the water utility? Do we have any reserve money for whatever that might be? Moving on to the agenda items, for item F and the community engagement, I am all for engaging anyone other than Rinka due to their lack of integrity and misrepresentations in past presentations. I understand Grafe may have the software that would be applicable for the type of thing that we're looking for. Item G, Grossnick. I would be all for selling those because likely if the village wants to control it beyond the control we already have for zoning, you're probably going to say, oh, let's do a TID, and we don't want another TID. And then the last item is item J and the administrator goals. I'm asking that remain in open session because there shouldn't be any compensation being discussed, and I wouldn't think that there are any performance issues per se that would be discussed. And I think the village should have the visibility to what are the goals that the board has jointly set with the administrator that directly impacts the village, and we have a right to know. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak? Good evening, welcome.
Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Good evening. Regarding the village center, I agree with the previous speaker about the consultants. Grafe did an admirable job on at the workshops on the 2050 plan, and they were non-partisan, unlike Rinka. Vanderwall is an unknown entity, so they may possibly be a group that we could entertain. On the Grossnick property, yes, we should sell those. I looked at that Port Washington RFP. It looks like it's had some design work to create it, so I wouldn't suggest that we just copy it because they seem to have created some kind of a master plan for their downtown. Regarding it being a potential music venue, we have Fireman's Park close by. There's already the beer stube. They have music. I don't think that may have been a good idea previously, but close to the residential area, I don't think it's a good option anymore. I think this Grosnick RFP is also an example of the missing 2050 intent for the village. That's what I'm calling it. We've got land use. We've got we've got barely some design standards. We have the idea that one by one development review, which it has created this hodgepodge of buildings, as Trustee Pieper has said in the past. What's missing, in my view, is an actual real master plan for the village center, which may include relocating a music venue, but one that's not based on, oh, let's just do it over here because we have this property. There needs to be better thought processes that go through, and you need to take a look at the entire village center, not just piece by piece. Also, just one note, the Plan Commission did not actually participate in the 2050 plan. They were only allowed to review. I know this because I was there. The content of the 2050 plan was decisions were made by a handful of people behind closed doors. My third comment is about the joint village board and plan commission meeting that recently occurred. There was some great presentation by the director of planning regarding the multifamily. My question is, when will that continue so that we actually know what the definitions of multifamily is and is not? That never got resolved. It was never discussed as to when it would be followed up on. It should be. I agree with the performance goals being not in closed session. We should know what services we're going to be provided for by the administrator and what the focus is going to be. I think that's been part of the problem. A lot of this stuff has happened behind closed doors. The other thing is, when are we going to get an updated summary of the department's expenditures? This came out let's see, 6/27/24, and I think I received a version of this at the end of last year, but it hasn't been updated in over a year, and budget time is coming up. This is what it looks like. And I think this is, as was noted in the presentation at that same joint village board and plan commission meeting, they talked about how there's $491,000 that will come about when TIDs 6, 7, and 8 close. But really, if you remove the $300,000 of the salaries that are currently being paid for by the TID, what does that look like? How do things like that affect this and the budget going forward? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anybody else like to come forward and speak tonight? Anyone on WebEx? Good evening, welcome.
Wyatt Weir, North 103, West 16850, Wild Rose Lane. I came to the public safety meeting because I was under the impression there was going to be a tour of the fire department, and then following month or so, the police department. Just want to give you a little history, since I've lived out here 29 years, and none of you were on this board 29 years ago. I ran for office, 28 years ago. And when I ran, the village board built Fire Station 2, 11 beds and a kitchen for a volunteer fire department. And I had used that as a debate item. And I was told that I was not looking into the future. Well, it took a good, 15 years before we finally got a full-time fire department. And now they're complaining that it isn't big enough, and they've only got 10 firemen on the department. I'm looking at the new proposal, and they're looking at least 10 bedrooms, which would be probably 20 people. and 6 showers and a fitness center at a cost of a total of $6 million.
Look more like a want, not a need. I think they could easily get by with adding a few more bedrooms is what they need. And possibly stop using a fire truck every Sunday to go buy groceries. These are expensive pieces of equipment. Every Sunday, when I go to Pick and Save to get my newspaper, there is a fire truck there, including that $1 million hook and ladder.
That was normally used for tavern closings and parades. But that is an expensive piece of equipment to replace if there's ever an accident. They've got pickup trucks, they've got whatever they have out there. They don't need to be taking the whole fire department down there to go grocery shopping. I think that is a waste of manpower. And that needs to be looked into. I just noticed just a couple hours ago, there was at least 4, maybe 5 fire trucks over at Blackstone Golf Course. I don't know what was going on, but it seemed like they had an awful lot of firemen, but they claim they don't have enough. It seems to be overkill, but that may be something you want to look into, since, like I said, a lot of you weren't here when that fire station was built, and it's sat empty for years. So maybe take a look at it and consolidate it. Also, instead of building a second fire station, they have station number 1 that has 8 doors that could be easily converted over to EMTs if they needed that, if they wanted the space. The EMTs can go back and sleep there if they need to, but at least you're centrally located. If you need to have someone respond to more, but it seems like they have more EMT calls than they have fire calls. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak tonight?
Okay, moving on to items.
One from email.
Oh, geez, I'm really screwing up tonight on citizen comments. So,
All right, we have one email comment that was submitted from the Schneiders. Hello, you'll be discussing the intersection of Pilgrim and Mequon Road for the Village Center, but what will the impact be on Pilgrim Road going southbound towards County Line Road? We live off Pilgrim Road and School Road. We wait sometime just to get out regular day. Doesn't matter what time of day either. When we went to work around 5:30 a.m., you could wait more than 5 minutes or longer to get out to Pilgrim Road. Now, retired, don't know what it is anymore. But there is a steady stream of vehicles on the road at any given time. Looks like the only concern is at the intersection. Went to the store the other day. This happened at the intersection we'll be discussing. Had to wait longer to turn left on Mequon Road due to traffic in the afternoon. No, it was not rush hour either. No school buses, just regular traffic. It was around 2:30-ish or so. We would like to know if the study included all the way down to County Line Road. We asked once before about having the village administrator goals as open sessions if no money is involved. This was last year. It was asked again by another resident at the last village board meeting, but it was postponed to this meeting. So will you be in open session if no money is discussed at this time? We, the taxpayers, do pay their salary. We believe we should be able to hear the goals for them. Also, please read the comments that we sent to public safety, into the public safety meeting for tonight. We did read those at public safety. We have comments considering items that will be discussed at both meetings.
Thank you. We are now moving forward to item 7, consent agenda, the July 21 Village Board minutes, the July 28th Joint Village Board and Plan Commission minutes, and the Freistad Field and Kinderberg Park fencing proposal. I entertain a motion.
Move approval, consent agenda A through C.
Discussion. Trustee Bob Warren.
oh, there you go. We have discussion. Seeing none, please this is roll call because there's dollars involved. Item C. Okay.
Trustee Warren,
Aye.
Trustee Cutts,
Aye.
Trustee Baum,
Aye.
Trustee Jen Miller. Aye. Trustee Born. Aye. Trustee Kaminsky.
Aye.
Trustee Peeper. Aye. President Soderberg.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 10, new business. Item A, application for a one-time special event outside premise extension at Big Sky Country Bar and Grill on August 16, 2025 for the Stars and Stripes Honor Flight Charity Golf Outing. Entertain a motion.
Oh,
Motion to approve is presented.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? That motion carries. Item B, application for a temporary outdoor entertainment permit for Big Sky Country Bar and Grill for August 16th, 2025. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item C,
Wait a vote.
Yes.
President, I would like to make a motion to bring a couple of the items forward so that we can discuss it out of order, bring it up into the, talk about it now rather than later. And I'm thinking of item F as in Frank, G as in George, and H as in Henry.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We are now on to item F. Next steps for community engagement related to Pilgrim and Mequon intersection redevelopment. Who's taking the lead on that? Okay.
Thank you. So this item is for discussion only, and it's related to the property that the village purchased last year, commonly referred to as the Grosnick parcels. You can see them on the map here. There are actually two parcels, 5.2 acre piece that's outlined in red here that has access via Main Street.
Point of order.
I think we're on item F.
F is in Frank.
I'm sorry.
Administrate next steps.
Oh, it's okay.
Community.
I'm sorry, we were on the, I thought we were on G there. Okay. I apologize, I'll
Please.
start over here.
We have the right picture.
So, and we don't have any slides related to this, but this is actually an item where we are asking for some direction and action from the board. At the July 21st meeting, the board directed staff to develop a timeline towards moving forward with the process to rezone the Pilgrim Mequon redevelopment area, including additional community input. And the board indicated that you'd like that community input to be gathered through in-person community meetings as well as online methods available to those who might not be able to attend in-person meetings. We are going to require some outside professional resources and expertise to complete those tasks. There are two alternatives, which I think would be the most effective and most efficient use of resources. One would be to continue to utilize RINCA. They have done and accumulated a lot of work up to this point in terms of looking at the sites, collecting data on the sites, collecting data from other public input, collecting the resources that they would need in order to do further community engagement. So therefore, they could likely complete this work at a lower cost and more quickly than other firms. Another kind of obvious alternative would be to enter into an agreement with Vanderwall. You may recall earlier this year, Vanderwall submitted a proposal to sort of assume the planning and engagement responsibilities that had been planned for Rinka. We did submit a grant application to fund 80% of that cost to Washington County. That grant application was rejected, but Vanderwall, talked with Vanderwall today, their representative, and they indicated that they would be interested in doing that work directly for the village. I think the primary benefit would be from Vanderwall would be providing a fresh perspective that that might be helpful to the process.
Thank you. Well, we've got two recommendations, either Rinka or Vanderwall, so I'll entertain a motion. Trustee John Miller.
I would like to entertain having Grafe do this work. They did the 2050 plan. They did the resident engagement or neighborhood meeting. I thought it was well received. We had tables in here. We had maps. They know the village well, and I think that they could do a turnaround very quickly, and I think they should be added to the list. They know the village intimately. We have over, I would say, 280 pages of the 2050 plan that is available to us that they helped develop and design. And I think it would be easier for them, since they've already done it here, to go ahead and do another engagement. I think it makes more sense to continue the process rather than try to reinvent it. And I think they should be a consideration. We need to do an RFP and get the neighborhood meetings put together, because what we do need is a master plan. If we're going to do any of the developments in any of the areas, there should be a master plan. I believe you enclosed something from Port Washington. Is that right, Administrator?
That was for the next item.
Well, it was impressive, and it was it really encapsulated basically what we need. We need complete oversight, and if you looked at it, it's not a 1-month process. When you do a plan, it's approximately 18 months or more, and that's what it looked like. So I would rather get a plan, do it right, and move forward with a plan than just have somebody come in and speak to us rather than gathering information. Grafe did that very well in the 2050 plan. I know you weren't here, President Soderberg, but.
So this is specific for the next steps associated with Pilgrim and Background intersection redevelopment, otherwise known as the Village Center, specific for that. And I love the idea of a fresh perspective. And if Grafe is an option 3, if you want to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to add Grafe to the mix for doing next steps community engagement related to Pilgrim and Mequon intersection redevelopment, which would be called the Village Center.
Second.
We have discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna, if I could make just a couple of quick comments, that we can use Grafe. We use them for a lot of work here in the village. They were here at the Public Safety Committee meeting previously. We don't have anything against them. I would point out to the board, I think since they are not familiar or involved, they've not had any involvement with this project, they will likely cost more and take longer than Vanderwall or Rinka. And I would point out, and it's great to hear the compliments being given to the 2050 planning process, but I remember very specifically people coming up to the podium and accusing Grafe of grooming through their process, and not speaking in favor of the way that they gathered information and community input. So Again, I have no objections to using GRAFE. I think the most important thing is that you're aware that it will take longer and cost more.
Well, that's speculation,
That's
so.
speculation, right?
Trustee Baum.
Is the motion only to add Grave to the list? That is the only thing we're talking about on this motion.
I think because the way it's worded, I believe the motion is to use Grafe.
To
And
use
Use
Grave
Grave.
or add them to the list? It's to use Grave. So we are going to be selecting, if we approve this motion, Grave will be the people we use.
correct.
What,
Trustee Jan Miller, is
Yes.
that accurate?
question first? You, Administrator Kreklow said Rinka or Vanderwall. Is that correct?
Those were my recommendations as the two firms that I think are in the best position as of today to come in and do this relatively quickly
What-
at a reasonable cost.
And what are their costs?
The cost that we had from Vanderwall for their project was $40,000. The cost for Rinka for the additional community engagement would be between $5,000 and $10,000, depending upon what we all include in that.
That's not a comprehensive plan of the village center. It's just redevelopment of 2 lots. Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we're that is what we're talking about. Just
Just the flower source?
right, based on the, at the joint meeting with the Plan Commission Village Board, Bailey Copeland came in with a timeline that she is updating. And in that timeline was very specific community engagement specific to that project.
Well, I think we should move on and get a fresh perspective, and I think it should be Grave.
Trustee Dave Baum.
So you are looking to, part of your statement was to have a cohesive plan done and presented to the village.
You can't do a full plan until you have a developer to the table. Every developer that is going to participate in this endeavor is going to have a little different tweak on it. You can establish guidelines for them to follow. You can establish rules that they have to engage in. But to have a third-party
Design firm design the center, you cannot have them do it because they don't know the criteria of any developer. So if you want anybody to come in and do a design, you're going to get the same thing that Rinka did. You're going to get the same thing that Grey Wolf brought forward. An idea. It is not going to be what a developer wants to build. So I do not agree with choosing anybody to do a comprehensive plan.
Why is the difference between Vanderwall, $40,000 and Rinka $5,000? Where is this written? On what page?
We have a proposal from Vanderwall that was submitted this spring. And if you may recall that we submitted it to Washington County, we asked for some grant funds. I talked with the representative from Vanderwall this afternoon, and there may be some opportunity to shave that down. But one of her questions to me was, are you looking for just a standalone citizen input meeting or community engagement meeting, in which case it sounded like they really weren't interested in taking only that item on. They felt that in order to do an adequate job at that they would need to do some planning work, some design work, so that they had materials to present, so
Sure,
that they had concepts to show people.
sure.
Rink is less expensive because they've already done a lot of that. They have materials to present, they have concepts to present. They probably would need to add to that and to refine that, but they've done a lot of that that contextual work already.
Um, my belief is we need community engagement. And I was not impressed with Rinka. We had, I don't know, 20 to 50 people show up and give input. And I didn't prefer the process. The questions were leading. They led you to only one answer. It was, President Soderberg, I don't think you were there for that either. So I think we need to move on from that. And it should be an RFP. Why isn't this an RFP?
I don't have an answer to that.
That would be another option. We could develop an RFP and go out and solicit.
Because you're not
proposals.
you're not clear about what the community engagement is. And we were denied the grant for whatever it was, $48,000 or whatever. And so now we're starting anew. So let's start anew and get a real community engagement where people can come in and actually pick what they want to see. And Grape did that very well.
Trustee Kibinski, I think you had a question.
I have a couple of comments, but this would be my first one would be, what exactly do we hope to accomplish at these meetings? What are we going to show? What are we trying to accomplish when we have community input? How will it be different than what we did before?
I think the intention of this, as I understand what the board is looking for, is that the community engagement would help to inform the zoning changes that are proposed. So some of those would look at like density, how many households per acre. So there would be some, and where I think some people might interpret the way the data collection would be designed to be, leading, we wouldn't have an option in there for single family houses on 1 acre lots. It's just not feasible on that space. But there would be a range of different like visual preferences that would be shown that would say, here's what it looks like at 10 acres or 10 units per acre. Here's what it looks like at 20 units per acre.
And who's going to create that?
Those slides, that material would be created by the consultant.
Okay, so Rinka could do that more easily
Because they
already have done a lot of this. And I know Rinka is very emotional for some people here, but the reality is we have not proven any conflict of interest. And I think for us to accuse that woman of that could get us into a lot of trouble. Just my thought. I think she's very professional and I think she's done all the work. Why not have her come in with you? Everybody else is controlling what's going on there, but she has the background and the visuals and everything else we need. So working in conjunction with the village, I can't see why that would be a bad thing. I wanted to know what people are going to see when they come in here. So we have to have boards or something to show concepts, which she may already have much of, I would guess. And then we have to talk, right? You, Steve, somebody has to give them a background about why we're doing this and why apartments are going to be part of this, because otherwise nothing can happen. I personally think I would just continue with Rinka, inexpensive in a year when we don't have money again. And they've already done all this work. I personally do not have a problem with her. It's not like we're buying anything additional other than this presentation. It's not like we're necessarily going to go with what she says, but she's done all the work up to this point over the past 2 years. Why wouldn't we go with her? Again, we save money. She's already got a lot of the things she can show us, and we can continue on the timeline we want to continue on to decide what we're going to do with these properties rather than just hang on to them. This keeps us moving forward.
Trustee Baum.
What we really need is not another drawing of the site. We can create those, anybody can create those anytime. Those are a dime a dozen, but they don't mean anything. What we really need is the guidelines of what this development, what any development in the village center will be allowed to have. Density, height, signage, materials, Germanic flair. We started down that road before we got put on hold. We had a third-party consultant come in, a law firm, as I recall, that was going to write the zoning codes for us, help us rewrite our zoning codes to that. That is what you want to happen, is you want the zoning codes rewritten with input from the residents as to what height do you want? What density do you want? What type of signage do you want? What are all the touchy-feely things about this development? Until you have a developer, the actual plan is irrelevant. The developer has to have a plan that works for him. This endeavor should be about the guidelines, not about another plan. And
Comment on.
Bailey brought forward a company that would do that. And we are about ready to go down that road with them. It had to be put on hold. So I suggest we go back to Bailey and have that person brought back to the table to start moving that part forward.
Trustee Kaminsky.
I was going to say, that sounds great if that's our goal at this meeting, but people have to visualize stuff. So you're still going to have to show, here's what a 2-story would look like versus a 3-story or a 4-story. I mean, you have to have visuals. So where do the visuals come in on something like
And
that?
in that part of the zoning guidelines, you have visual imagery that relates to the topics at hand. What does a 4-story building look like? What does a 5-story? What if we do 4-story, but you can pop up for a 5-story? What would that look like? What does 3-story look like? What does the signage look like? What does the
produces that?
materials look like? Those can all be done as part of the zoning code with visual illustrations.
Who does the visual illustrations?
The third party, that firm that Bailey brought in, they can pull all that together.
So that's a Rinka thing?
No, Rinka was part of it, yes, and they do it. When you look at zoning codes throughout the country, some of them will have these very specific little pictures, little diagrams of how the road section is supposed to look. You got to have buildings this tall with a sidewalk this wide with a parking lane with drive lanes and the curvature of the roads. They can get very specific if we want them to. That is where we need to go, not another layout for this space. We got 2 of those already. We don't need another one.
How much does that cost though, to bring the Bailey people?
Trustee Cutts.
I guess I don't, as far as using Rinka again, I don't know, I guess what they would bring forward differently to show the community engagement. Because it sounds like you want to have meetings to get more input on the process, correct?
On what folks want there, correct.
Right. So Rinka already kind of has their set concept. So I don't know what they would do differently. I'm not familiar with Vanderwall at all. And I guess with Grafe, if they're coming in with a lot more money, I probably would not support that because they're starting from scratch, which I don't know if Vanderwall is completely starting from scratch. But I'm not necessarily in favor of bringing Rinka back in to, I don't know, I guess just expand on what they already did.
Well, I think if you talk to 5 people in our community, you're going to get 5 different recommendations for that space.
Right.
And we're never going to move forward. And I'm a firm believer in moving this forward. And I don't think we need to complicate things too much. I'm very concerned about the $40,000 price tag for Vanderwall. Rinka, 5 to 10,000. I think we've accomplished a lot, and some may think that we have not done that. But with Jeff's work on the multifamily apartment ratio mix, I think we've taken a lot of the emotions out of the argument about high density apartments being anywhere in the village. and the impact on the school district. I think that's a non-issue going forward. I think the issue is, what do we want there? I know one of the things that we've talked about was doing a community-wide survey. And at the last, I think at the joint meeting, I think Trustee Borst, you questioned or you commented, can we provide questions for that? By all means, I would still like to do that. And if we can expand that to make it more broader than just the village center, I would welcome that as well, to truly get some input. But I really don't want to start over on this whole process. It's not that difficult. We know something is going to go there. We just don't know what. Trustee Jan Miller.
And let me know
I
when
w-
I can speak, please.
I would say two things. We're I personally don't want to touch anything that right now that has conflict of interest next to its name. I don't want to do that. But I would agree to do a community survey and start getting some input, because that's what we have promised. We promised neighborhood meetings for 3 years. I know you weren't here, President Soderberg, but we have been offering and promising neighborhood meetings, and it's never transpired. And residents come forward and they say, why can't we have this? Why can't we have that? But let's get some input. When we put something in these properties that we own, it's not going to go away. Choose wisely. We have, Phil Cosen said from Ellers, we have 2 years if we ever wanted to do a TID there. 2 years. So let's not be jumping at the gun. Let's clear up any issues that are outstanding. And I like the idea of doing a survey on our own and getting some input. If we don't send the message to the constituents, our residents, that we're trying to make this Germantown something that they feel good about and have pride in and have some input, I think we're going down the wrong road.
Well, that's why we're here. We're having this discussion specific to the village center. The neighborhood meetings, like I commented in the past, we will be revisiting that in the plan commission on what that looks like on the 2050 plan and the neighborhood meetings. We know there's an opportunity that we will be doing that, but this is specific to the village center project. And I don't think we're rushing it at all. I think we're having some very good conversation. We're just trying to figure out, okay, what's the next steps associated with moving this forward? We all know there's a lot of emotions out there on what past boards have done on buying property. We've got an opportunity to move forward with this, and we're going to be talking about the Grosnick property later on. I have no problem having those discussions right now. And specific to the conflict of interest, there's a path forward for that. There's an allegation. We're doing something about that. I've got some information, but based on what I've been told, I don't think there's a conflict of information or conflict of interest. But because of the allegations brought forward to that one party, and also to the village board managing that whole situation, where we've engaged a third-party counsel to investigate that. So I feel very comfortable with the path forward for that. So I don't think we need to delay anything, put anything on the back burner because of that, based on what I know. So Trustee Bob Warren, and then we're going to go to Trustee Pieper next.
Thank you.
I would share the same sentiments that Trustee Baum has, that the end game here needs to be guidelines. And I don't know if this agenda item is clear that that's what we're looking for from whoever we select. So I'd like to clean that up before we vote on this. I think Ranka may be a little tarnished in some people's eyes. Vanderwall, it's a fresh look at it. Frankly, I don't think we're going to see much difference between the two consultants. Grafe, I would abstain myself from, having been a previous employee of Grafe. So that's my opinion.
Trustee Pieper.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say that the allegations or unethicalness against Bailey, Miss Copeland, it's pretty much laughable. The fact that she has gotten us to the point that we are at, um, she is familiar with the process. We are the one that started this with her. Why would we not finish it with her? And why, when we are pretty much broke as a village, would we spend an extraordinary amount above what we would pay Rinka to get us to completion? That to me is just um very illogical, very irrational, uh stupid in my opinion.
Okay, trustee Jan Miller, and then we're gonna close discussion and go on because we do have a motion on the table, so.
I think that this board needs to understand that Bailey Copeland is alleged conflict of interest is still hanging out there. I think it should be cleaned up. And additionally, I think every one of the board members should have access to the current contract and understand what her role is and what her payment is. Because you can't say that anything that she would do going forward is cost-free. That is incorrect. And if these properties, I want to clearly understand, if we're selling these properties, if the Village of Germantown is selling these properties to a developer, we should be selling it outright, or are you trying to say that she would be our agent and make another commission?
Yeah, that's a totally separate conversation. We're not
Can I-
even at that
and-
point yet. Trustee Pieper?
Yeah, I just want to respond to Trustee Miller's last comments. Wanting to see the contract and commissions. Trustee Miller, you could have requested this multiple times from our administrator and been given that information. But if you want to nitpick like that, then I want to see the contract of how much Attorney Sajak is making, or I want to see President Soderberg's expenses for the election, and so on and so forth. So that to me is absolutely ridiculous and out of order.
Okay, again, this is specific for the community engagement part. I think this conversation is growing legs and we're gonna bring it back. Christine?
Yep, I think from a community engagement perspective, I would like a fresh perspective, potentially using Vanderwall or Grafe or someone else, I guess. But I think utilizing someone other than Rinko could bring a fresh perspective and help move us forward in a positive direction.
Okay, can you read what the motion was on the table?
I'm sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
after I have just a clarifying question on the motion, just from a staff perspective. If this passes, is there a dollar amount that you're asking staff to do this with? Or a cap on a dollar amount for Grafe if the motion passes? Or are you asking for staff to get a proposal from Grafe and bring that back to a future meeting? I just want, so we're clear on what staff is expected to do.
Well, we've got to repeat what the motion was first.
Motion by trustee Jay Miller to add Grafe to the list of doing next steps for community engagement related to Pilgrim and Mecron intersection redevelopment, referred to as Village Center. Seconded by trustee Ketz.
Okay, so do we have further discussion about adding Grafe to Rinka and Vanderwall? Trustee Baum?
So what is the scope of work we are looking for these people to do? What is the deliverable we want them to give to this board? I don't see that anywhere in here. You can go out for an RFP, but you got to be exact on what you want delivered to this board. And it's not in here.
I would agree with that. So we're on the motion about adding Grafe to the two other consultants. Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those, go ahead. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I
Aye.
heard,
Abstained.
heard Jolene say
She said aye.
to
Jolene's
take.
aye.
She was.
Or-
I said no.
Right.
And Baum, Kaminsky. So I'm just gonna repeat back the nays. Warren is abstained, Baum is nay, Kaminsky is nay, and Pieper is nay.
Motion carries. So we've got a third consultant in the mix. Now, I would go back to trustee Baum and say, I concur. We need to be very specific in terms of what we want the three consultants to do. Any recommendations about tabling this and coming back with an RFP process at the next meeting?
I'll make a motion to bring this back at our next village board meeting with, I guess, a review of the RFP, because we have to see that before it goes out.
Sure. I think the direction I'm hearing is that you want to go through an RFP process, and then we'll draft an RFP and bring that back for review and then send that out and see what responses we get.
With these,
Second.
the specifics of what the deliverables are
Mhm.
and how many meetings and what format they're going to use. If you're going to use this pinpoint, social media pinpoint, what are you going to use? Because that's a big issue.
And if any of the trustees have any recommendations, please send your recommendations to Administrator Krecklow. What you would like to see included. So we could, I'm not going to say fast track it, so we would have, do our due diligence upfront so that we have a better conversation at the village board meeting. So.
So I made a motion.
Do we have a second on the motion?
I second. I thought I did. Or I will, I'll
Further
second.
discussion.
Or maybe.
The motion is we're going to table the conversation and come back to the next village board meeting with an RFP that will include all three consultants. So, and we have a second. We have discussion on this, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
I'm opposed as well.
Trustee Pieper, what's your vote?
I'm opposed.
Okay. Two opposed. Okay, moving on to item G, alternative path forward and parcels acquired by the village on Main Street and Fond du Lac Avenue. Trustee Administrator Krecklow.
All right. So now I'll get to this diagram. So the village acquired these two parcels, the 5.2 acre parcel outlined in red with access to Main Street, and the smaller parcel outlined in blue that has access to Fond du Lac Avenue. The rationale for acquiring those processes was so that the village would have better control over the type of development that would take place there. And in particular, so that the parcels were purchased together to provide a second access point to that 5.2 acre parcel. Without that access to Fond du Lac Avenue, it severely limits the type of development that could take place back on the 5.2 acre parcel. So most of our attention recently has been focused on the Pilgrim and Mequon Road project, as well as the Blackstone Golf Course. But it seemed appropriate to bring this up and have a conversation, a discussion about potential next steps moving forward. And I've listed out several options. This is not an exhaustive list. The list is not particularly mutually exclusive. You could do things in certain orders. You could do one and then try another. But just wanted to start some conversation with this. So first, one option would be to hold the properties as is until approached by a developer. And again, this is something that's not unusual with municipalities when they have what they consider to be key properties to acquire them and hold them until they are kind of ripe for development. Second option would be to complete some relatively low-cost improvements to the properties, such as a parking lot or a pocket park or something along those lines, and then hold them until approached by a developer. Third option would be just to list the properties for sale as is without any specification of desired future uses. And I do think there likely is some sort of market for both of these properties. The office space on Fond du Lac Avenue is a marketable property, and there have been, prior to the village acquisition, there were calls for of people who were interested in purchasing that property for things such as like storage units and other relatively low intensity type of development there. Could sell the properties as is through direct negotiation with interested buyer or buyers. And that, most likely would be nearby businesses that might be interested in purchasing the properties. Could include others though as well. The board could define desired future development from the parcels and release an RFP. I included an example from Port Washington, which I thought was kind of an excellent example of how they went through that with, identifying the potential uses for it and then going out for an RFP to attract potential development. And the final option would be to develop the parcels for a permanent public purpose. And it could be some combination of parking, green space, park utilization. I know there was a proposal for a music venue in the past, so those are all possibilities. I think in talking with the community development director earlier today, just kind of updating on this issue, probably the biggest recommendation that staff would have is the desirability of keeping the two parcels together in order to maintain the value of that larger 5.2 acre parcel. But other than that, I think there are a lot of different directions the board could choose to go.
Trustee Kaminsky.
My mind is on two things here. We don't know what's going to happen in that little downtown area. We know it's going to be influenced by whatever we do on Mequon Road, more than likely, because it flows pretty quickly down there. We have the Blackstone Creek development, which we don't know what we're going to do with yet. And that's going to bring more residents down to that area. And if we end up owning part of that park, this could be a very beautiful kind of pathway through the old downtown to the Mequon Village Center if we have some foresight. Could happen, maybe not, but if we have some foresight and planning, that could be reality 2-3 years from now. And so I am of two minds. Either we hold these properties as is for now until at least we see what's going to happen next, like for the next 6 months or so, or we define the desired future development for them. Keep them together. We don't want to just fix them up and sell them because we're going to end up with the same problem in the future. You're going to have Gale parking there more than likely, or something else that we don't want in that area as everything else begins to look wonderful in the next 3 to 5 years in the surrounding area. So my preference would be to either hold on to the properties at least short term and or come back and say, this is what we desire. I don't think we're ready to say that quite yet, but we might be within 6 months or so. What do we desire on that property? Because that whole thing could flow together and suddenly this piecemeal Germantown that we've all lived with, I've been here 30 years, this piecemeal Germantown is going to actually be really cool and people are going to want to come here.
And people are probably wondering why this is on the agenda for discussion. Discussion only is specifically because I asked for it to be on. Then they're, again, getting the emotions out of past decisions made by the board. We're talking about it now, and I like all these ideas. I like the idea of Terry. I like your idea, your thoughts too. I like it. I mean, there are a couple interested people that are interested in the parcels, and I'm not going to name any names because we'll have to go into closed session on that. And I'm okay with that too. I'm okay with doing what Trustee Kaminsky mentioned. I'm okay with that. I love the idea of the Port Washington example. I like that. There's a lot of things we can do here. And my goal is to, sell the land. If it's now, fine. If it's 6 months from now or a year from now, fine. The money goes back into the general fund, which we need to grow. And those two properties will be back on the tax rolls. They'll be productive. Because I believe they're off the tax rolls. Is that accurate?
That's
Right.
correct.
So that's my intent. Quite frankly, if it's 6 years or 6 months to a year, I'm okay with that. Trustee Baum.
I'll agree with Trustee Kaminsky. We either need to sit on it and hold it until the area develops, or we need to define what is going to happen here. If people think we're going to get more single-family homes in there, no. 1 acre lots, that's 5 homes. That's not what's going to go here. That's not what's going to generate the revenue. That's not what's going to stimulate Main Street. In reality, you're looking at a high density housing. You're looking at more apartments. You got apartments directly to the right of that. You got apartments up and to the left. You got apartments all over the place. This is going to be another apartment development. It also has to deal with the access to this area. The problem with Main Street is there's no parking for those businesses. This lot has to somehow improve the parking for this area. And there have been several opportunities, several ideas of how to do that. We need to settle on one of those and say, this is what's going to go there. And then fine, go ahead and try and put it on the market. But if you're not going to accept multifamily, it's not going to sell. It ain't going to happen.
Trustee Cutts.
I've listened to the points and I agree with some of them. I do have a hard time though making a decision since you just mentioned there's a couple people interested in the properties, yet we have no idea what that is or what that could be. So I don't really know how to weigh in on it without that information. I think we could wait a little while to sell to see what ends up happening on the corner of Meckwat and Pilgrim and then what could happen from there. But without the information that you just talked about, I can't really offer anything for sure.
Gotcha. Trustee Bob Ward.
I think any option other than number 5, where we define the desired future development on the parcel, would be a disservice to the time and the money that's already been invested in this. I mean, that's the whole reason we did this. So I wouldn't consider anything else. And I agree with Trustee Kaminsky where, if we're really good with looking forward and planning, we could tie this into Blackstone and it could be the 2 bookends basically of Main Street. So there might be something out there in that regard too. So definitely option 5 if I had to pick one.
Trustee Borst.
Yep, I do agree to holding it temporarily. I think that is smart for now until we figure out what is going on with the other developments and being able to tie this property in somehow. Like Trustee Cutts said, with the information that a couple people are potentially interested, I would like to have further details in terms of what their ideas are for the property and if that could already tie into what we're kind of thinking.
Great. Trustee Jan Miller.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Kaminsky that we should hold on to the property, and also with Trustee Warren, we need a plan. And without a plan, and even if we have people that are interested, I don't want to sell it to somebody that wants to put a factory there or just a parking lot and sell parking spaces. I don't know. But in the interim, and by the way, there are homes all the way around there as well, right on the corner, right next to that building and down the street. Those are all little houses. People live in those. Anyway, I have an idea. We seem to be saying, let's get a plan, understand what is going to be a good use for it. In the meantime, why can't we utilize that building that's like a little office building? And I was wondering, since the Park and Rec is always looking for spaces to have their events, like, for kids drawing or craft fairs or, craft building, stuff, beads or making jewelry or whatever it is. But can't we, I mean, we own it. Can it be utilized? There is parking in the back. I don't think the second floor is falling into the first floor. I think it's in pretty good shape. I mean, fair shape. I don't think that it sounded like the fire department had mold in it. So how bad could this be? I'm just saying, could it be utilized while we're waiting? I mean, we've already paid for it. It's sitting there. Let's put it out there.
Yeah, of course, the building can be repurposed for village needs, and, if staff comes forward with recommendations or thoughts, of course, they can do that. I don't know if we talked about the reason for acquiring that parcel was to get access to the back, and if we sell both parcels together, that building would be torn down to create an access road to the back 5 acres. So you're not going to get anybody to come in tomorrow to lease the building for 1 or 2 years, knowing they're going to be gone in 2 years. Right, but we could if there's a need from staff or the village to use that facility, they can do that. We own it. You're spot on. So Trustee Kaminsky.
Just another, following up on what Trustee Miller said, even if we don't use the house itself, we can mow the lawn and put some picnic tables out there. And people would love that. You just have like a little mini break area.
Further discussion. I know we've talked about a lot. Again, we want this there was an intentional to put this on the agenda tonight to talk about different options. And I think we've exhausted the conversation. Further discussion. Okay, let's move on. Item H, effect of high density development in tax increment districts on police, fire, EMS costs and services. Discussion, Mr. Krecklow.
Well, this was put on by Trustee Cutts, and it was also heard at the Public Safety Committee meeting earlier today. A similar item was placed on the agenda. And I'll try to summarize, and please add or correct, or if you'd prefer to summarize.
Yeah, I can just say, I wanted this on at Public Safety just because we had our joint meeting. We're talking about how is everything going to be affected when we have to decide if we TID or how we're going to finance. So I just wanted to include this. Both chiefs said they probably didn't think these new areas that we're talking about would probably have much enough of an effect on their services. As far as fire, EMS, they get more calls to the senior living, senior apartments. They said really it just depends more on the people that move in as to if there'd be problems or not, and you can't really know that ahead of time. They did not think there would be an increased need for equipment or personnel over what they've recently received. But I just want this spoken or discussed as far as a TID goes, because in a TID area, you're using shared services. So that's not just public safety, that's also the library, it's Park and Rec, it's DPW. And the costs for that are shared by existing taxpayers because the money stays in the TID. So they're getting use of the services, but not paying for it in that area. So I just want that to just be thought about and talked about and just discussion. And maybe there's something I'm not thinking of or not seeing. So I just wanted to bring that up for discussion points.
Trustee Baum?
I think the discussion about the TID and the TID dollars is irrelevant to the question at hand. How is this going to impact the police and fire and EMS? Police, fire department, and EMS said it would not be a significant impact to their services. Period. End of story. That's all we need to hear on this topic.
Further discussion. Trustee Miller.
I just wanted to say that if we put things in TIDs, there is an impact. And unfortunately, in the joint meeting, as we heard from Phil Cosins from Ellers, the presentation was a little premature because the actual numbers will be coming out 8/15. So we should be inviting him back to recalculate where we're at before we go forward with any other TIDs. And I think I think that's relevant. High density, I don't, high density and multi-units, I think still the multi-units has to be better defined. But high density, when you talk of high density, I think high density for me is mostly anything that has anything more than single families. It is defined in the 2050 plan in each one of the areas that we have defined. And it is relevant. It's relevant about what neighbors think about high density, and it's relevant in having those services. So, you know, how can you guess when you're getting, you know, 273 units in one area, if you get 3 calls or whatever? It is close to Menominee Falls. They have shared, you know, we have the shared services. I forgot what they call it. Mutual aid, thank you. And, but we want to make sure that the residents feel like when they go into a high density area, that they shouldn't lose any of those services. And I think that's what we wanted to bring forward and have a discussion about.
Yeah, I thought the discussions were very good. You know, I feel very comfortable with the service levels that currently police and fire have will not be impacted by future housing. Things that we're doing or conversations that I'm having with both chiefs are specific to tracking metrics month over month, or our retailers specific for police in terms of are we going to particular retailers more than we should? And what are we increasing visits for shoplifting, et cetera? It's not just one officer responding, it's 2 officers times 3 hours. So we're tracking that. We don't want to be the retailers that are significant contributors to our tax base. We don't want the police department to be their loss prevention department. So we're tracking that. We're also tracking on the EMS side, on the fire side, calls to retirement homes month over month, because some of those retirement homes are nonprofit. They don't pay taxes right now. So we're tracking that. And that gets back to the conversation that you had at the public safety meeting. It's all together. We're tracking all that. So getting back to the conversation at hand, I don't believe it's going to have any impact on future housing going forward. If it does, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But right now, I think we're doing fine. Further discussion. Trustee Pieper, did you have a question? Trustee Cutts. Okay, thank you.
I just had a question for Administrator Kreklow. Has there ever been a cost of community services study done for Germantown for all our departments?
Not since I've been with Germantown, and I've never seen one. So I think, I know there's some members of the board who've been on around here longer than I have. I don't think that we've ever done a study like that. I know one of the suggestions I made to the Economic Development Commission was that we recently saw an RFP from the village of Wanakee that was developing a model that looked at that, like what are the costs of services for specific developments, and what were the tax revenues and what would the costs be, and where they would model that out, and looked like kind of an interesting concept. I haven't seen it done a whole lot of communities our size, but that might be something, the Economic Development Commission would be interested in doing in cooperation with the board.
Further discussion? All right, let's move on. We're going back to item C, Accurate Surveying and Engineering LLP, agent for Rao Farms LLC, property owner at N 136 W21238, Bonnewell Road, an application to rezone 115 acres from the A1 to the A2 agricultural zoning district and a 4-lot certified survey map.
Motion to approve as presented.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? I think Jolene people.
Jolene.
She was aye. Yeah.
I'm an I, I'm for it.
She's for it.
Trustee Peeper, your mic is delayed. Are you in favor of or opposed?
I'm in favor of.
Thank you.
That
So-
motion carried.
Something's messed up with WebEx tonight.
Thank you.
That motion carries. We're on item D, resolution disallowing the claim of Cynthia Gilinski.
Motion to approve as presented.
Do we have discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item I, claim for damages of Angie Burnt?
Oh, got E yet.
Oh, E.
E.
Oh, there it is, sorry. Item E, assessment services contract renewal associated appraisals.
Move approval as presented.
Discussion. Trustee Jan Miller.
I had some questions about this. There was not an RFP on this and I think there should be. We had this at GGF.
What was the outcome of GGF?
Trustee
How
Kaminsky?
many years have we had them now?
We have had, well, I'll let the finance director come up and answer your questions.
So the last contract renewal was in 2020, so at least since 2020.
Okay, and they're 3-year contracts?
The first one was a 3-year contract. This one, the first one was a 5-year contract. This one will be a 3-year contract.
This is our second contract,
Correct.
basically. With it. I think they've done a great job. And for those of us who've been on the board, knew what we were through before we hired them, they're doing a great job with the reassessment and with all of their day-to-day activity. Now, I've never had a call on them with a problem. Maybe somebody else has, and that might make a difference, but I totally in agreement with continuing with them. It just makes sense.
This has been vetted by GGF, right?
Yeah, this went through GGF. It was not a unanimous vote, so that's why it's on the consent, it was not on the consent agenda.
Trustee Warren.
So to Trustee Kaminsky's point, those of us who were on the board, the previous assessment company led to a lot of headaches, a lot of phone calls. They were doing some things wrong. So I haven't heard anything from anybody with this company. That's why I support it full-heartedly.
Further discussion. We do have a motion and a second, correct? Okay, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Roll call. Dollars, you're right. Good catch.
Trustee Warren?
Aye.
Trustee Cudds?
Aye.
Trustee Baum?
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller?
No.
Trustee Borst?
No.
Trustee Kaminsky? Trustee Peeper?
Aye.
Village President Soderberg?
Aye. That motion carries. Moving on to item I, claim for damages of Angie Burnt. The village board may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851G for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the government body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely which it is or is likely to become involved, and then may reconvene into open sessions to take action as deemed appropriate.
Motion to go into closed session for items I and J.
Discussion. Jan Miller.
I think we should consider having J in open session.
We do have a motion for both I and J. Further discussion. Sure.
If I could just make a comment, if I do agree that the objectives that are set, it's a public record. It should be available to the public if they would like to see that. I can take the results of the discussion tonight and post that on the village website later this week and make that available for anybody in the public who would like to see what those objectives are and how they've been set.
Yeah, I support that 100%. We'll put it out there. I think the conversation is about, because there's been a lot of changes from when those objectives were first created to the present time. The goalposts have been moved, and in all fairness, I think we need to have a conversation relative to that. Trustee Baum.
Yeah, you never know what we're going to get into in this discussion. Sometimes we do criticize your performance. Sometimes we call you to task on it. That is not something that should be done in front of people. Yes, I agree. Take your notes, put your notes out there as to what we're holding you to. That's
It'll be
enough.
out there. It'll
Now-
process. It'll be out there. So further discussion.
Before we vote, just, one of these dot I's cross T's types things, we should probably read the item J as well, since we're having a vote on both of them.
Item J, administrator setting 2025 performance goals. The village board may enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and then may reconvene into open sessions to take such action as it deems appropriate. So we have a motion, a second, for taking both I and J into closed session. Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Closed session, roll call.
Steve, you gonna call me?
Yeah, we're doing roll call, Trustee Pieper.
Yes, I'll call you. I'll call your phone just so you can participate in closed session.
Thank you.
Just for quick, Trustee Baum. You made the motion. Did you want the village attorney and myself included in the closed session?
Village attorney, yes. Donna, you don't need to be.
You want me to be here? Happy to stay. Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that that's part of the motion. Okay, roll call vote. Trustee Warren for closed session.
Aye.
Trustee Ketz.
Aye.
Trustee Baum.
Aye.
Trustee Jan Miller. I'm sorry?
No.
Trustee Borst.
Aye.
Trustee Kaminsky. Trustee Pieper.
Aye.
And Village President Soderberg.
Aye. Okay, we are now in closed session at 8:53 p.m. Thank you all for coming tonight, and please drive home safe. You may.